I want to talk to you about the biggest stock in the U.S. market's biggest publicly traded company, NVIDIA. So there was a report yesterday that Meta was is buying a startup, a chip startup, and looking to kind of build more of its own in-house chips and be less reliant on NVIDIA. Still, we're seeing NVIDIA shares up another % today on some other chip news. Is there anything that can slow this company down in your mind?
It's great question. But right now, I mean, NVIDIA on Tuesday broke out of a 2-month consolidation period, hitting fresh highs again yesterday. Jensen's on the road, I think this week and next, kind of on the East Coast, meeting with investors. And right now, the street investors are digesting Jensen's very bullish commentary on the BG2 podcast. Asian data points remain very supportive of the story. And then look at all the kind of application product rollouts we're seeing from Altman and OpenAI in just the last several days. It's just reinforcing that we are still in the early innings on this demand trajectory for AI, and NVIDIA GPUs are still the gold and the energy that's needed to kind of power all these initiatives. And demand's not slowing. And the beautiful thing with NVIDIA, they're no major customers coming from the hyperscalers and sovereigns. It's almost like a never-ending balance sheet up to this point.
At some point, we're going to be in antitrust territory with NVIDIA. So I think all these folks are saying, okay, maybe we'll all work together and this will lessen the impact or any kind of scrutiny on the antitrust side.
Wait, say that again. You think we're going to be in antitrust territory with NVIDIA? Explain that.
Well, in the long run, what we're seeing is some very interesting things in terms of how NVIDIA allocates compute. For example, if a large hyperscaler buys NVIDIA chips, there's a resale capacity in their contracts that allows NVIDIA to take up to 50% in some contracts I've seen to be able to resell capacity. And so the question is, like, how deep and how connected are all these contract relationships?
So, okay, let's walk through that, because when you have a shortage of chips and you can only give them to so many, I mean, we remember the dinner that Elon Musk and Larry Ellison had with Jensen Huang, trying to convince them to sell them, each of them, more chips. How are you supposed to do it when you're a company that can only dole out so much?
It's a very tough thing. I mean, chips are a scarce resource, but they've done some very interesting deals where they basically reserve channel capacity. Where, let's say, you sell a certain number of chips to company X, and then they get in, and then NVIDIA has the ability to resell capacity on top of that, up to 50% in some of these deals I've seen.
All right, Ray, we appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know what, money burns a hole in my pocket. I'm just I don't know what I want to spend my Intel winnings profits on. Do you think I don't think we're ever going to see any of those, are we? Probably.
I hope the government does remember to unload. And the good news is they don't have to deal with capital gains appreciation. So
no, they send us to, right. Maybe they'll borrow against it like a billionaire. I don't expect any checks in the mail.
I want the credit swaps on that one.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
And then on NVIDIA, I think they get licensed to ship Blackwell soon. And that OpenAI deal is additive. And you're going to have guys raising numbers and raising their price targets, and the stock should get going. And I think that's another good one in the short term, as long as it's AI optimism and people don't care about circular investments, which I don't think they will for a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's already gotten going. It's at 190 now, NVIDIA. But
Exactly.
Dan, just quickly, I mean, if you feel as if the market is giving too much credit to too many companies for success down the road in AI, would you actually be looking to fight against it and find some shorts?
Heck no. You don't fight the market. I mean, that's like trying to fight this thing in 2021. I think in the short term, you're going to get signals that this thing is over. And so for me, I lived through the late 90s into 2000. And you've already started to see some of those signs come out. But in the near term, I think you take advantage of these animal spirits in the short term. But unlike a lot of people you have coming on saying, oh, look at the great earnings and the AI stuff, what I'm trying to tell you is in sometime in 2026, I'm sure I'm going to be on this program being incredibly bearish, saying I think NVIDIA is going down 30 to 50% because the market gets more discerning on which cash burning furnaces in AI they're willing to fund. But right now, when you've got money getting easier with the Fed cutting another 2 times and potentially again in early 2026, it's not something you're going to have to worry about. Remember, in late 1999, you had a similar situation, which people forget about, which is the Fed was pumping money into the market because they were concerned about the Y2K bug. Then they started taking it out when the world didn't implode in 2000. And obviously we know what happened in late 2000.
Not everybody forgot about it. We're here. Yeah.
Yeah, we're keeping track of all that. Money supply and a lot more, Dan, and we will have you back. And maybe we'll play this tape then. Looking forward to it, if not before.
Great. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Dan Niles.
Now, getting details on the more than $19 billion deal between Microsoft and AI infrastructure player Nebius Group, first announced in early September. According to a new report, Microsoft will get access to more than 100,000 of NVIDIA's newest chips through Nebius, which will power large language models and a consumer AI assistant in-house.
I mean, now we'll go a little deeper. Let's go into the AI trade. If you're out there and you're saying to yourself you're going to sell NVIDIA, like really, with this amount of momentum behind it, sure, get behind whatever bear argument you want to make, whether it's DeepSeek or CapEx one day is going to fall off. But really, with this momentum going, you're going to sell it. Good luck with that. And I think when I speak to the trend being your friend, what I'm specifically speaking to is that any dip in the markets is highly likely to be bought. Now, of course, the markets can go down and probably will sometime this month. But consider that something like 25% of professional managers are beating their benchmark this year so far. That means the other 75 are feeling a little bit desperate right now, and they're going to buy any dip. And actually, it's not just AI. So again,
NVIDIA is, though, up for the 5th straight session yesterday. It closed at a record high, while ARM and Micron both gaining ground, I should say. Intel up, last I checked, almost 3% on reports of potential foundry talks with AMD. I emphasize potential because AMD declined to comment on what it called speculation. AMD, though, up about 4% now. And the catalyst really driving this is sustained AI spending enthusiasm. Neocloud Nebius, for example, up 6% on new details of the $19 billion Microsoft deal, which would now involve 100,000 NVIDIA high-performance Grace Blackwell chips. OpenAI, just yesterday, announcing its partnership with Samsung and SK Hynix, these are memory makers, to make advanced memory chips and build more data centers. SK Hynix and Samsung both jumping on the news overseas. This really matters for the memory supply chain. Micron supplies advanced memory chips to NVIDIA, AMD, and others, with expectations that this next generation of high bandwidth memory pricing is going to be significantly higher. So Micron is not, is still part of this conversation, even if they didn't sign that deal yet with OpenAI. And when you keep getting spending announcements each day, like the OpenAI partnership or the Nebius Microsoft deal, it really enforces that hyperscaler CapEx isn't slowing down, even, and this is key, if the promises and headlines lack a lot of details, or as Jim just said, nothing about the future is a slam dunk.
NVIDIA is up 10% in just the past 2 weeks, lifting the entire semiconductor sector. Our next guest sees plenty more runway ahead, at least for 2 names in the trade. Joining us now, Stacy Rasgon, Managing Director and Senior U.S. Semiconductors Analyst at Bernstein. Stacy, great to have you. Broadcom and NVIDIA. Sky's the limit here. I mean, at what point do you start getting worried?
Yeah, the worry that people would have on all these is that the music stops. Like, the numbers have gotten so big so quickly that, you worry about sustainability, and that's always been the big concern. But I think a lot of the things that we've seen over the last few weeks and months suggest that things can be sustainable for longer. Right. We had Broadcom reported earnings a few weeks ago where they talked about a new major AI customer next year. It looks like it's OpenAI. And the CEO, Hock Tan, has agreed, who's like 73 years old, by the way, has agreed to stick around until 2030. And his retention incentives are all around AI revenues that get to some very big numbers by the end of the decade if he hits his targets, as much as $120 billion. With NVIDIA, we had the OpenAI investment, I guess a few weeks ago, which actually gave people a little bit of pause at first. But at the same time, the first tranche of that doesn't even come until next year, which suggests that OpenAI is going to be buying from them for quite a while. And then you start to see some of the numbers that OpenAI themselves is starting to throw out, and the Oracle RPO number that was just, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's becoming increasingly clear, I think, that the party is still going, at least for now. And I've said for a long time, at some point, there will probably be an air pocket or something. It has to be, but it's not now. It's not this year. Mm-hmm. Doesn't look like it's next year. It may not be 2027. For now, I think these can still work.
I mean, the headline numbers seem great, Stacy, but when you think about sustainability, how do you think about the ability of these companies to pay NVIDIA in terms of financing costs? The energy bottlenecks that could be faced if we do want to reach sort of these targets being thrown out by an OpenAI, et cetera? I mean, are there bottlenecks like that you factor into the story, or you don't?
Yeah, I mean, like, so in terms of like how can all this be paid for now, at least, like, the companies are doing most of the spending are the largest, most profitable, well-funded companies in the history of mankind, right? I mean, they have money to spend right now, and you know, they basically said, like, we're going to do this come hell or high water. So at least for now, that is still going. If you talk about future bottlenecks, the one that you mentioned that I think a lot of people are worried about or watching is power. These things do use a lot of power, and the bigger you build, the more power they use. And you know, you can look at, like, at least electrical capacity in the U.S. Like, it hasn't grown very much over the last 20 years. Like, that's got to happen. Now, at the same time, though, a lot of the customers that are doing these purchases, they are trying to secure power now, and they're doing it years in advance, 3, 4, 5 years in advance of even taking the hardware and building the data center. So this is something that at least is not a surprise to the folks in the industry that are doing this building. But if you're looking for the one thing that probably will have to come to play, like, in a much bigger way than we've seen in the past, it probably is the energy situation.
Stacey, the market seems to, in waves, want to kind of widen the circle of the companies that are going to be beneficiaries of all this. The memory chip companies, obviously, both in South Korea and here, have been flying. I'm not sure, you cover them directly, but does that make sense? Does the entire food chain still have, radical upside to their projected numbers next year?
Yeah, I mean, if the data center numbers are right, it drags a whole lot of other stuff along with it. And so, look, you talk about memory, like, all of these compute chips take a lot of memory with them. And there's another dynamic going on right now that's driven both the memories as well as the semi-cap stocks up, which is, I mean, clearly there's a lot of demand for AI memory, but also a lot of that capacity has gone to AI memory. And so it's actually starving the more commodity side of things, like commodity DRAM, for example, and flash memory, where prices are spiking and supply is now getting very, very constrained. And so, for example, a lot of the semi-caps have started to rally on the idea that we could have sort of a sustained, trajectory of memory equipment spending to add supply to satisfy the demand that right now is very constrained. And so, yeah, right now, lots of things in the space are rising either directly or peripherally from these same kinds of trends.
And then, you look at these big deals that are being reported by, you guys about, OpenAI and NVIDIA, and it all seems, so much connected. At the same time, the correlation is low within even those names. So yes, of course, this is not going to last forever. It doesn't seem to be super stretched or frothy yet, but certainly something to keep an eye on.
And finally, the big name in the space, NVIDIA. What's your view?
Oh, love it. I mean, I know everyone's like, well, the stock has gone up so much, but I think, again, if you look at the numbers, I mean, if you just take kind of a street whisper of $7 next year, the stock trades at a 25 multiple, and that $7 is going to continue to grow as, the capacity needs are going to continue to grow.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. Today, we're learning more details about Microsoft's $19.4 billion deal with Nebius. Under the arrangement, Nebius will provide Microsoft with access to 100,000 NVIDIA Blackwell Ultra GPUs. What's also interesting is that this deal is part of a $33 billion push by Microsoft to lease capacity from neocloud providers such as Nebius, CoreWeave, etc. Microsoft CEO said earlier this year that he is looking forward to leasing capacity even into 2027 and 2028. On that note, I'm bullish on Iron over the next 1 to 2 years, and I encourage you to research the company. I would not be surprised if Iron secures a large contract from a major hyperscaler at some point over the next couple years. That is not the sole reason that I'm bullish on Iron, but it does create the possibility of additional upside. Today's news about the Microsoft Nebius deal comes after comments from Microsoft CTO at Italian Tech Week, saying a massive crunch in compute is probably an understatement. And it's been almost impossible to build capacity fast enough since ChatGPT launched. And even our most ambitious forecasts are just turning out to be insufficient on a regular basis. And so we deployed an incredible amount of capacity over the past year, and it will be even more over the coming handful of years. This lines up with what Jensen Huang said on the BG Squared podcast last week, when he said that he thinks we will not hit a glut in demand for at least the next few years. Also today, it's being reported that Taiwan has rejected the U.S. proposal for 50% of U.S. chips to be manufactured in Taiwan and 50% 50% in the US. Apparently, the Commerce Secretary floated the idea in an interview this past weekend, and then Taiwan's top trade negotiator said that the 50-50 proposal was not even discussed during trade negotiations with the US. Looking ahead, we have NVIDIA GTC in Washington, D.C. later this month, with a keynote from Jensen Huang scheduled for October 28th. Be on the lookout for any sovereign AI initiatives with the US government or large-scale projects with US companies. I say this because Jensen usually announces large-scale projects that are unique to the region where the GTC event is held, and this event is being held in Washington, D.C. Jensen told us on NVIDIA's earnings call that he is anxious to share more details about Rubin with us at GTC. Rubin is NVIDIA's first architecture wherein every chip is new and revolutionary, co-designed to deliver an X-factor increase in performance. In the meantime, we have Blackwell Ultra ramping quickly, leading to revenue growth acceleration based on NVIDIA's Q3 guidance. We should also start to see revenue from certain sovereign AI deals show up either in revenue or revenue guidance on NVIDIA's Q3 or Q4 reports. And we're also starting to see the early signs of what I think will be a surge in compute demand fueled by agentic AI. There are many examples I could point to, including the recently announced collaboration between OpenAI, Stripe, and Shopify to add instant checkout to ChatGPT. As a reminder, AI agents are essentially AI models that can complete tasks on your behalf. Moving forward, the AI models will actually be able to do things for you, and this should lead to a surge in compute demand, much like the surge we saw following the introduction of advanced reasoning models and inference. I think the oncoming surge in compute demand fueled by agentic AI will extend well into 2026. And Jensen seems to agree with this thesis based on his earnings call comments, where he said he expects reasoning agentic AI to be a major growth driver in 2026. Those are three reasons I like the fundamental setup for NVIDIA through the remainder of this year into 2026. Blackwell Ultra's swift production ramp, certain sovereign AI deals translating to revenue, and a surge in compute demand fueled by agentic AI. Looking out a bit further, NVIDIA has multiple massive growth opportunities on the horizon that they are really just starting to capitalize on, including sovereign AI, enterprise AI, which Jensen believes is an opportunity worth hundreds of billions of dollars, many AI native startups, physical AI, and quantum computing. I think most analysts are underestimating the growth of NVIDIA's data center business. I also think many analysts are substantially underestimating NVIDIA's long-term growth in other business segments besides data center. NVIDIA is actively establishing themselves as the underlying infrastructure of both quantum computing and physical AI. NVIDIA sells the systems where the AI models are trained. They provide NVIDIA Omniverse, where the models are taught and tested. And NVIDIA also sells the hardware that allows on-device real-time inference through NVIDIA AGX. From the hardware in the data centers to digital twins in Omniverse to the hardware on the robots. NVIDIA provides it all, and they're establishing themselves as an indispensable foundation to physical AI. Over 2 million developers are already building on the NVIDIA robotics stack. And when it comes to quantum, Jensen told us earlier this year that NVIDIA is already working with just about everyone in the quantum industry right now on NVIDIA's CUDA-Q platform. Most analysts are fixated on NVIDIA's current data center business and not adequately factoring the next chapters of NVIDIA's story into their models. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I think there's a very real possibility that NVIDIA's physical AI business may eventually be larger than their current data center business. This does not get enough attention. As for production ramps, Blackwell Ultra is ramping very quickly right now, leading to revenue growth acceleration. Rubin is on track to launch in 2026. Then we're expecting Rubin CPX at the end of 2026. Later on, we're expecting the launch of Rubin Ultra in 2027 and Feynman after that in 2028. We have a clear data center product roadmap stretching into 2028, and Jensen believes there will be $3 to $4 trillion of global AI factory build-out between now and 2030. That means Jensen is expecting growing AI demand and an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I don't think we are anywhere near any type of bubble bursting type of event. With all of this in mind, I seriously think that NVIDIA still has plenty of runway ahead of it, and I think this company will be worth substantially more in future years than it is today. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.